Okay, perfect. Well, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good
No.
morning, depending on where you are. This is the last Tuesday of the month, which means it is time for a live discussion based on the read that we had for the month, which in
Mhm.
April we read If the Spirit Moves You, Life and Love After Death by Justine Picardie. So we'll be discussing that this evening. Um, Whether you've read it, DNFed it, or just interested, please feel free to comment. If
Mhm.
you're watching this in replay, please feel free to comment below as well. We always check on those. But yeah, so tonight that's what we're going to be reading. But before we get into our live discussion, we just want to remind everybody what we'll be reading in May.
Mhm.
So, Laura, if you want to share what our May book is and how we came to pick that.
Yes. So May is my birthday month, and as you guys may or may not know, I'm assuming if you're watching, you do. We pick our books for our birthday month. So I am May, Dani is July, and I really wanted to read something fun that I just had wanted to read for a long time, like a rainy day book. So I picked A Fine Romance by Susan Branch. It's Falling in Love with the English Countryside. So here's the cover. It's all photographs and hand illustrated and handwritten. It's a beautiful thing. So, yeah, hopefully it's good. I think it will be.
I'm
Anything
excited.
else?
So, I picked this up from my library
Yeah.
and I didn't look at it at the library. I just picked it off the shelf and I actually picked a few other books like that were near it because I was like, oh, that looks
Yeah.
good. Oh, that looks good too.
Yeah.
And then when I got home and I opened this, I was like, oh my gosh, I am gonna love this book.
I know.
I I just love the way that this looks
Mm-hmm.
and the handwriting.
Yep.
Like you were describing it and I was like, oh yeah, like I think I know what you're talking about. You don't know until you open it. Like
Yeah,
this
it's
is
beautiful.
really like this is definitely a book that like if I ever find it out in the wild, I will definitely be picking it up because it's really pretty. Like I
Yeah.
love it. It looks awesome. It like kind of makes me want to do it myself. Like, oh, this is like
Right.
almost scrapbooky. You know
Mm-hmm.
how people will make scrapbooks and some of them will make journal like scrapbooks? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what this reminds me of. And yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
very excited to read this. So
Yeah. I love all of
great.
her stuff. All of her books are like that. They're all handwritten. They're all illustrated by herself or have her own photographs, ticket stubs, ephemera, whatever. I just love her stuff. She doesn't have a lot of books. So I try to like eke them out throughout the years. But I was like, screw it. I really want to read this. It just looks really good right now. So yeah, I hope everybody likes it. I hope I like it. I think I will, but
Yeah.
hard not to.
I think we will. I think we'll have a lot of fun and I think we'll have a lot of fun in the live discussion as well just because there may be things that maybe we've seen or reminds us of something. So I'm excited to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for the month of May, then we have our reading sprints, which
Yep.
kind of kickstart the month, and that'll be next week, Tuesday, which I believe is the 6th.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
Yeah.
it's the 6th. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then we would have the reading sprints, or excuse me, the live discussion on the last Tuesday of the month, which I can't remember the date on that.
No idea.
But we always do reading sprints on the first Tuesday
Mm-hmm.
and the live discussion on the last Tuesday. So no matter what the month looks like, unless a holiday kind of lands on that day,
Yeah.
we pretty much do the first and the last Tuesday. So that's where you will find us in May.
Mm-hmm.
Also, next week, we will give you the options for the June books.
Yep.
And then that poll will go up on our community tab as per usual, and you'll be able to pick your favorite from those three for our June book. So we'll have that started for next week as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tonight, again, we are going to be discussing Justine Picardie's If the Spirit Moves You, Life and Love After Death. And if you had a copy, it looked like this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so this was a book, it's nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
written in like diary entries, I would say, is kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
And per usual, and I know it being nonfiction, it's a little bit different, but we always go for this as our first question, which is if you rate the book out of a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being amazing, how did you rate the book?
I'm giving this a 3, like straight in the middle, 3. I liked it. I like her writing very much. I see why she is like a multi-published author. Um, but for the actual story itself, I liked it. I this is terrible. I don't know what the point was. So that knocks off some stars because I mean, I get the point, but also it seemed like the thing she was looking for happened constantly. So I didn't know why she was still looking for the thing to happen when it was happening all the time. But yeah, I'm giving it a 3. What did you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And for kind of some background on the way that I kind of read books, when I read books, I very rarely do a lot of research on the book before I start reading it. If someone suggests me a book, if we have a book in book club, if I find a book on the shelf, I am a very much a cover by kind of person. I don't read the back of the book unless
Price tag
the
too.
title is really off-putting. I'm sorry?
A price tag too. No more than $2,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Price
Yeah.
tag, yes. Price tag first and foremost.
Yeah.
So I kind of just go in blind. And then after I've read the book and I think of my own rating, I go, I wonder what other people thought about this book. That is when I will then go and look at other reviews. And a lot of the reviews on this book was very much in line with what you just said, and what I really do agree with is what was the point of the book, because it was kind of like it was like a merry-go-round. It kind of just kept going in circles around the same thing. And not that she didn't do a good job of discussing or explaining what she was looking for. And for those of you who may not have read the book or may not know what we're talking about, so this is it's a story about grief, really, and about finding one's, I guess the best way to put it is just finding your connection to those who have passed, mostly through spiritualism, spirit, speaking to spirits, that kind of thing. And she's really trying to find out what's real, what could be real, what the potential is. I wouldn't say this book is really trying to like wrestle the fact if it's true or not. I feel like she's just giving the information. I don't think she has her own doubts, obviously, as many of us do. But I don't feel like at any one point she says, yes, this is real. No, this isn't real. And I don't think that's the point at all. I feel it's more of it was a personal journey. As in the beginning of the book, she discusses that it's been, I think it's a few years after her sister passed. So
yeah, I meant to look that up. I'll look while you're talking.
Okay. Her sister Ruth has passed, and she and her sister had a very strong, very close relationship in life. And so she's really looking for her sister after she's passed, as far as looking for her spiritually. I feel like she's looking for that connection throughout the novel. And we'll kind of talk about how she does that. But just a little context for those of you who may not have read it.
Yeah. It's 3 years later, by the way.
Okay, yeah. So 3 years later. And the book itself is 1 full year of her on this journey, on this path of, I don't know. It's meant to be like a book about grief, but I didn't really feel like it had a lot of the grief part. It was more of like, it just was a journey and an experiment, I feel, of like trying to connect to the dead is really how I read it. And so the reason I also gave it 3 stars, and I truthfully, this is going to sound terrible, I wanted to give it less stars, but when it comes to like nonfiction, I feel like you can't judge nonfiction based on your own like, oh, I didn't like it. because it's nonfiction, it's real. It's like, oh, I don't like your journey. Like it
Yeah.
just sounds so rude. And it's not, it's just, it was very boring because it just continued to repeat the same stuff over and over again because she was repeating the same stuff over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. So it was just her on the same cycle over and over again. And I don't feel it's fair to be like, oh, you're going to lose a star because you couldn't get your, together. So,
Yeah.
so that's why, I mean, I did keep it at a 3, but all in all, it just wasn't like, it was interesting and it kept me motivated to read it. Cause I was like, what are we coming to the end? Like, what is the end? What are we going to find? But it just wasn't satisfying. It was kind of like a bummer read. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thrilled reading it, but it's also nonfiction. So how can I really rate a book based on a real person's real journey?
Right.
But as far as your overall thoughts on the book, like, I know we kind of always say that in the first one, but like, do you want to extrapolate a little bit more there?
I mean, I agree with what you said about everything. And I don't know. So I was nervous to read this, very scared to read this. This is the book I did not want to read of the 3 options last month, just because my mom currently is dealing with breast cancer, metastatic breast cancer, stage 4. This is her second time she's had breast cancer. This will be the thing that takes her out. So having to read a memoir of grief about someone who lost someone to breast cancer, I was like, I don't want to read this at all. Like, really, really didn't. But it reads quickly. It's not, I don't want to say it's not emotional. It's not overly emotional. She doesn't engage in any kind of, I don't think, I can't think of the right word for it, but it's like, I want to say like grief porn. You know what I mean? Where people are just like exploiting themselves, exploiting all the tragedy stuff to like get views, get likes, get sympathy, get whatever, She doesn't do any of that. It's all kind of straightforward. And yes, it is emotional, but it's not at all torturous. She talks about her sister fairly matter-of-factly, and it's there wasn't a lot of lingering on her sister's illness, like the specifics, though she does talk about them. It's not like a drawn out thing. It's just like this is what happened this one time, when you move on, which I really appreciate as someone kind of going through this. I was hoping for an end point, like she was focusing towards something, but the more I read, the more I thought this is just going to be the same over a year. It's just going to keep repeating on a wheel, I appreciate that she is investigating so much and like checking out different religions, and like you said too, she's not trying to teach you or like make you go like, yes, I think that this is what's happening, but she's curious about what different kinds of people think about what's on the other side. If there is another side, what happens after death. So I appreciated that she was checking different things out, but I don't know. I really think that I don't think this had to be published necessarily. That sounds terrible. I'm not familiar with the things about her sister, but again, I'm not British. This author is British, so why would I know her sister's writings, I guess, before death? So I didn't have that connection necessarily. But I, just walking into this blind, I thought it would be sadder. I thought it would be a little more angsty and more about grief and less about, that was interesting. Okay, I'm going to try this again. Or, what does this person say? Let me try this. Okay, what does this person say? I'll look over there. Like, it's all just kind of flat and the same. Even though she does talk about grief, it's not really about grief. That sounds so weird. I've never
No,
read a
I
book
got
like
the impression. No, I definitely got the same impression. And like you were saying, it was very emotionless. And
this. Yeah,
it's hard to say that because there are moments where there is feeling
right, right.
and remembrance of feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but truly the whole book was very matter of fact. It was very
Yeah.
direct in the scientific views
Mm-hmm.
of these spiritualists that
Mm-hmm.
she she would say, okay, so it'd be like, oh, Sunday the 15th of October, I went here and I met these people, and this is what they said, and this is what I took from that. And it cost me this much. And then
Mm-hmm.
she would move on to the next day that she would say something. And sometimes it was about her family, but at the same time, all very matter of fact.
Yeah.
It looks like Allie is here.
Hey, Allie.
So, hello, hello. Uh, this was actually your pick, so
Mm-hmm.
very exciting that you are here to help us dissect this. Um, let us know what your thoughts were. Um, but yeah, so like overall, it was like I was trying to gather because I thought this was gonna like when I started to read it, when you first because you learn like okay, so it's been 3 years since she's died, and you get the impression that this is going to be a book about grief. I did not feel like that throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe her way of reconciling is that she was researching that, because some people are very like type A, where like the way that they process things is through um more structured means. But I just felt like this was very like to the point, direct, matter of fact. This is what I did. This is who I did it with.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it was. And all of that was interesting. Like for her to have gone to all these different places and met all of these different people and the things that these people believe. And I'm not going to sit here and say whether or not it's real or actually works, or I'm not here to that is not I am not an expert. I am not here to you know say anyone's beliefs are not real. Everyone has their own belief and they're entitled to that. I'm not here to say what is or what isn't. But some of the stuff I was just like, what what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm laughing because I didn't think it was funny. I was just like, what are they trying to do? And it was funny. The thing that made me laugh is when she was starting to describe one thing, I was like, oh, like that's like that movie Frequency. And then she brings up later
Right.
that movie, and
Frequency.
they're sitting, her and her husband are watching, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, it's that
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that made me laugh too. Yes, you did.
Yep.
You did. Uh so yeah, I mean, overall, it just it wasn't what I expected, but I mean, I didn't have a lot of expectations going in. I mean, I think from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, I do feel like she was less neurotic. She was less forlorn about what she was going to find,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't feel like she found what she was looking for.
Right.
And and honestly, I feel like she wasn't going to be happy until like a figure of her sister appeared in front of her and like
Mm-hmm.
spoke to her for hours. I honestly don't feel like she was going to be satisfied until like her sister came back from the dead and talked to her outright.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of mentioned it before, like I feel like in almost every like thing she participated in, I feel like she did have connection. And what that means, I don't know, but I feel like her sister was always with her because
Mm-hmm.
she always talked to her, but she was like, I can't hear you. And it's like, but you're talking to her right now.
Right.
And it doesn't matter that it's you speaking back for her. That's the point. Right there, she's with you. Like that's the proof is she is with you. Like, and that's my belief. Like, so you're talking to your sister and it's you talking, but it's also your sister. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like, it sounds really stupid when it's coming out of my mouth, but
no,
like,
not
I
at
feel
all.
like she was talking to her sister the whole time. Like, she would say something silly and then she would write. Her sister's voice would say, "Oh, I'm right here." And then she would say, "I know." And I'm like, "Okay, that's it right there." And she never through the whole book never said like she's been with me the whole time. And I'm like, "But she has. You it's a proof. It's in your book.
Right.
You wrote it in your book. Like several times you wrote it." Like, so it was weird. I was like, "Why are you not paying attention to even what you're writing?" I thought at some point she was going to say, like, especially at the end, like, even through all these things and all the things that I've been trying and whatever, I realized she's been with me the whole time. No, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Totally agree. It was like just writing an article in different ways people try to make contact with the dead. Yeah, rather than an exploration of grief and then what drives one to find. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It was. So going back to my comment before about, when I checked the reviews on a book, a lot of people were saying this about this book. Like, what part of this book is the grief part? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And even the title, right? So if the spirit moves you, that makes sense because that's kind of what she's doing throughout the whole book, is looking for the spirit. And then it says life and love after death. So life, okay, so that's your life. So that's her. That's Justine's life. So how is her life after the death of her sister? And then love, there's like a very small portion of the book, and it comes at the very end, where she's at some seminar in the US where they talk about love. It's the only point where they really discuss love, which again from the title. And it doesn't even I didn't even feel like it made sense. I was like, what? Because he says communicating with the spirit, it's all about love. And Justine says something, and I wish I would have marked it, and basically saying that's dumb. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, what? What do you mean it doesn't make sense? It's like, it's the only thing that does make sense in this whole book.
Right.
Like, you're going to be connected to the people that you love. And in my head, I was like, it doesn't make sense that they're saying that, because all the mediums are always like, oh yeah, I've connected with like Freddie Mercury and I've connected with Elvis. And I'm like, but what does that have to do with love? So that's where I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But like for her and her connection with her sister, it absolutely made sense, because like, of course, you're going to be most connected to the people who you love and who love you. So, I mean, for as far as titles go, I'm not quite sure if that title is the best option for that, but that's just me.
It's interesting too, like every time she was flying, especially because she traveled internationally for a lot of stuff, when she's flying, she always has full-on conversations with her sister. And it's like, okay, you're flying all over the place to connect with your sister, but on the flight itself, with nobody else around to like help you or guide you or like open a door for you or whatever metaphor you want to use, you're having full-on conversations with your sister. So just fly. I don't know. Like it was just like
Yeah, but she wasn't like counting that as connection. It's
right,
like I said, I feel like she needed to have like a visceral connection, and that was the only thing that was gonna make it be so. Allie mentions, this is from her previous comment. Not that the author promised us anything, but I guess my expectations were different than that the book deliver, which is not the book or the author's fault, but made for. I'm sorry, my screen, I can't see everything, so.
Or a discordant.
Oh, okay. And then I think it goes on to another
Mm-hmm.
comment. Sorry, I'm
No,
getting
it's
really
okay.
weird. Reading experience is what the
Mm-hmm.
second one said. So that's part of that.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. Um, she clearly is open to these different channels, but she is so flat. She is so flat in description of them. There
Mm-hmm.
is no reflection or analysis. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
basically she like reports on what she sees, but then goes, it wasn't really that great. So, and then she moves on to another one, which is similar and sometimes has the same people,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like unless her sister was sitting right next to her, holding her hand,
Right.
looking her in the eye, I just, yeah, I don't know. It was, it was weird, but let's jump into some of the questions here. Some of them we always end up discussing half of these when we're just talking about the overall thoughts. But so Justine explores the possibility of communicating with Ruth after death. How did her search for contact affect your view of grief or spirituality?
I mean, I so historically, by the way, let me just give you a preface. My neighbors are having landscaping work done, and for some reason, this crew shows up like between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. and will work for like until like 9. And I'm hearing a bunch of doors closing now, and they were not here before. So if you hear like a buzz saw or some other weird stuff, I don't think you will, but if you do, it's happening next door. I don't know what's going on. Bizarre. Anyways, so for my family, my great grandparents on my mom's side were spiritualists. When that was whole going around the 1800s, they were into it, right? So like a lot of these concepts and things are very familiar to me. It's not something unusual or scary or whatever. It just is a thing that some people can do or some people want to do or have a connection to or whatever. It's just another option out there, like a different kind of religion or whatever. So it's just a thing that I've always known about that's been in my family for a long time. So nothing here was like changed what I would think or not. I didn't think anything was crazy, like negative or crazy good. It just sort of was. Nothing was new. And I watch a lot of spiritual things and like haunted shows and everything. I've been into this stuff forever, and I've had experiences with spirits and stuff my whole life. So all that stuff is very normal. Activity in my house is happens constantly. It's just a normal thing for me. Like that's my reality and my lived experience. So everything here was just like, oh, okay, you know. Um, but from speaking about how she does not speak about grief, I think is very interesting because it's clear she has a lot of love and a deep connection to her sister. I mean, obviously, she's writing books and articles and all these things about her sister's dying, illness, and her death, and then after death now, too. So obviously, it's a really big deal. And if you've been through grief and you've lost someone you're really close to, like, you understand, I think, regardless of the person, you understand vaguely what grief is and what it can be like. But living through it and experiencing it is a very different thing. Um, it just takes you at the knees sometimes, and you are not in control of when things happen to you. Um, it's an interesting thing that you go through. It's not something that ever really goes away, though it changes in time, generally speaking. Um, I think one thing that's interesting about this in particular with her is that she seems to have accepted death and accepts her sister's passing. A lot of people don't. They are so hurt by the person being gone or by the way they left or that they didn't get to say goodbye or have closure or whatever it is that they can't accept it, and they're stuck in this different kind of grief cycle. It's more like torturous, you know. It's like that saying about anger, like you can hold on to a hot coal because you're angry at somebody, but all you're doing is hurting yourself. You're not hurting that person. You're holding on to this weird grief thing that's you can't process anything because you're looking for something strange or you want something different, a different outcome. You're not accepting reality. Like this person is gone and that's awful and that sucks. But you have to eventually accept it or it's going to drive yourself crazy. I mean, so she seems to have accepted it totally. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought there would be a little more discussion about grief regarding having a hard time accepting that she's gone and can't move on without her, and she doesn't want to do things or see her family or all this stuff. And there's none of that in here. It just, she has totally accepted her sister's passing, which is wonderful. That's great. But then why are you looking for all these things that a lot of people do, you know, traditionally, or not traditionally, maybe that's the wrong word, but, you know, they look to someone else, different kind of person of whatever kind, priest, whatever, for guidance and someone to help you and figure out what to do or how to process this thing or how to live your life, because the world is totally different now. And so she sort of does that, and she does all these experiments, but like you said before, it's just I did this thing, here's what happens. Huh, okay. Next. I did this thing. Here's what happened. That was interesting. Next thing. There's no analysis, like Allie said. It's just kind of strange. So I was expecting it to be harder to read because I thought it would be more about grief. It's really not at all. And nothing in here was crazy to me. Everything was very familiar. The people she talked to, the different kinds of things she did, is something I've experienced or researched myself. So that was all nothing. So it didn't really affect a lot. I don't want to say it was a nothing burger of a book, but it seems sort of like a nothing burger of a book. You know, it exists and it's there, but it's not, I don't know. I feel like I'm just talking now to it. I'm just repeating myself, but it just doesn't, it didn't affect anything. I just read this book.
Right.
Nothing was new or exciting.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, I grew up Catholic, kind of coming from like more of a Christian / agnostic point of view on a lot of things. I'm open to the idea of a lot of what they were talking about, but a lot of it I don't. I don't really. I'm like, okay. But again, like I said, I'm open, and I don't. What the main thing, I don't believe that any of the people are incorrect, because I believe that anyone can believe in what they want to believe in as far as like religion and all that. Like I'm not here to tell anyone else that their God is not true. Like, I have my God, you have your God. Like, there are too many peoples and too many religions to say one is the ultimate, like, you know what I mean? So I'm not, you can believe in what you would like to believe in. When I see some of the things in the books, there are a lot that I'm like, I don't think that works that way, but that's your life and you do you. The grief part, I think, so I had a hard time with her. So to what you were saying about her accepting her sister's death, I think there's a fine line. So she's accepted that her sister is dead, but she hasn't accepted that her sister is gone.
You're right.
Because through this process, she is trying and not accepting that her sister is gone, because she's trying to have her sister be with her always. And that's where there's like that disconnect of like, if she is a spirit and she is with you, then she's never going to be gone. Right. So I think that's why, for me, because this is 3 years after her death, which obviously she's probably gone through the stages, you know, there's denial and, you know, all the way through to acceptance. But the fact that for this whole year, she is neglecting her family, she's spending exorbitant amounts of money doing this, all of that, to me, like, as a spouse, I would be like, no, you are not traveling to America for a week-long seminar. No, you have children, you have, you know, your job. Like, for me, I'd be like, no. Like, if my spouse, I'd be like, you need to find a different a different way to do what you need. There's no way, because it wasn't one time. It was several times. It was several, like several events where she was like, I think she went to the United States like 3 times at least.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
And then she went to this London Society thing several times. It all costs money. Like, and she was saying like every medium she met with, it was like over $100 each time. And she even learned within that, like a lot of them, it's just reading your reading your body language. Like she proved that she learned that. They taught her how to do it. Like, so that was really like, I was like, what is this book supposed to be about? It didn't affect how I internalize grief or how I view spirituality. It didn't change my perspective. It didn't enlighten me. It didn't make me feel better or worse about it. I know that people believe in it. I know that I'm open to it, because I mean, I'm not saying I'm not open to it, but I'm skeptical, as she is throughout, you know, she has moments. She has moments where she feels like it's more powerful than others. And I think you have that in anything that is like this. There's not a black and white explanation, right?
Right. And a relationship with any kind of person, even if it's just in the grocery store interaction, it could be positive or negative. It could be whatever it is. Anytime you talk to one person, it's always different. So of course you're going to have negative or positive things, because every interaction with somebody else is going to be different. You're in a different spot, they're in a different spot. It's never going to be the same.
Right.
You know?
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
There we go. It's like the episodes of Contact with the Mediums were just oh, I think I just had that up there. Interludes between real reflection on the loss of her sister when she was by herself. Yeah. I mean, when she was on her own and she was just like chatting with herself and her sister, I was like, hello, ding, ding, ding,
Yeah,
right there.
I know.
She never opened up to that. It was, yeah, here we go. Here we go. Sorry. I can hear my kids crying, so I apologize if you can hear that. I think you know that I don't have any belief, godly or ghostly, but I also realize I am an experiment of one, and my view isn't for other people.
Right. Same for me.
Well, yeah, I just, and I think that, I don't know, I don't think it's anyone's business to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't believe.
Right. Unless you're harming yourself, you're actively harming somebody else. Like, that's one thing. But if mostly that's not what's happening for most people, you know?
Right. Yeah, I see how the all-consuming experience of grief can lead to one untrodden paths. Yeah. Well, and too, like when people are in these moments, they can really be taken advantage of for some of these mediums and stuff. And you know, you see that every once in a while, and you're like, yeah, because they really learn how to read your facial expressions and all these things, and they end up getting lots of money from these people. And I think that's where a lot of the skepticism comes in for a lot of people, because you see all the people who are taking advantage of the situation and taking advantage of people in these situations. Because that's really the point, right? Is someone who is in a place where they are struggling with grief and all these other feelings, and they're so desperate for a connection. Like you said, if they weren't able to say goodbye or whatever it may be, then, you know, they're easy prey for people who know how to work and kind of navigate those feelings and make someone feel better, even though it's may not be true, you know?
I mean, there are scammers for every industry that exists, because people are jerks, you know, like, yeah, there's good and bad in every profession and everything everyone does. So I think
Right.
it's like you're saying too, like it's important, whatever you believe, whatever your experience is. If it brings you peace, okay, but also be cautious and be realistic. Have your eyes open. Pay attention, Like look at
Right.
televangelists. I mean, my gosh, they rake in
Yeah.
so much money from people being lonely and are at home
Mhm.
and they're stuck there. And,
Yeah.
same thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Your experience definitely has you
Yeah.
keeping your feelers out there. Um, how did you feel like the writing style? Did it affect you emotionally? I know we kind of talked about this a little bit.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, it was sort of without affect, which,
Yeah.
and again, just for me personally, I appreciate it. So it wasn't a really torturous read, but
Mhm.
I just thought it was fine. I would be interested to see what something else she writes would be like that wasn't about this loss, see what her writing is like in that situation, because I didn't really I mean, I got a feel for it. Obviously, I was reading it, I read the words, but because it was sort of flat, I don't know. I'm
Yeah, I mean,
just saying
I
nothing.
don't think there's any argument in the fact that she can write. I mean,
Right.
she is a journalist in
Mm-hmm.
as her career, and I know she's written a few books regarding Coco Chanel. So she's a researcher. She
Mm-hmm.
is a person who dives in, looks for the information, and builds a story around that. And I feel like in this book, she does that, and that's maybe where that matter of fact voice comes from, is
That's true.
that she's doing research and she's giving us the information,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not really putting a lot of emotion in there. Like, for me, I felt like the whole book, because I mean, it's not just her sister, her neighbor,
Right.
her
Sister-in-law.
sister-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
her, like, there are several, like, dead people in this book. She even
Mm-hmm.
refers to several others that she doesn't like extrapolate on, but
Right.
there's like at least 5 dead people that she refers to
Mm-hmm.
that had died like in the
Mm-hmm.
last 5 years.
Yeah.
And not by any good means. We have cancer, suicide, a boat accident, like all of these different things.
Sorry.
And she's just so frank and matter of fact and emotionless about a lot of it. But saying that, I feel like that in itself shows her emotion. She's like numb.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she's numb through this whole experience because she wants a shoulder gripping shake of an enlightenment to happen, and it's just not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it was like she was numb this whole time, which then for the reader just gives us this like lackadaisical, like, today I went here and I did this, and today I went here and I did this, but there's no real discussion of her feelings. I mean, she refers to some of them like, oh, she was crying in some parts, or she was embarrassed in some parts, or she felt tired, but it
Mm-hmm.
was never like a real, like, exploration of how the event made her feel in correlation to her connection with her sister, which is the whole point of the book. Um, and honestly, like, I felt, and I hope that by her, like, maybe editing this, that she saw it too. But I feel like, and I think I said it before, like, total neglect of her children, her husband, even when his sister passes, and it was obviously a very tragic accident. Like, she really doesn't comfort him very well. Like, but also it's like you just went through this, but what I feel like what she was doing was trying to like be like, see, now we're the same. Now we both have
Mm-hmm.
sisters dying. He did not want anything to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, we're not the same. This is not the same situation. And then that shut that down and it was never discussed again.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that was so weird because, and not every situation is not the same. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, she lost her sister, so she should know how he feels, because it's not the same. Everyone goes through grief differently. And honestly, I don't feel like there's a time frame on grief. Like, I
Right, there's
feel
not.
like grief is something that can last the rest of your life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it really isn't. I don't feel like you can say, oh, it's 2 years and then you have to be over it. I really don't feel like that. I don't feel like that's fair. Um, because anything can remind you. I mean,
Right.
anything can remind you. I mean, even relationships. I mean, people who have been in a relationship with a partner and then that partnership ends, sometimes it affects you for years.
Yeah.
You hear a song or you see something or you see a movie or, like anything that you shared with that person, it pops up later and you go through those emotions again. And
Yeah.
in some respects it gets easier, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I feel like, going back to kind of what our expectations were with the book, I'm sad that we didn't get to experience her moving through that grief in correlation to this journey, because I feel like that would have been a more compelling story.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is nonfiction, so it's hard to say like your journey sucked, but it was kind of really boring, like, because it was the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
That does sound interesting.
I feel like she has a couple of books um with that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. She was always looking out for others. Yeah, I agree. Um, yes,
Right.
in your memories, your shared experiences. Yeah, exactly. Completely agree. Sorry.
That's okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So would you consider this book more of a memoir of grief or like spiritual exploration or both or something else? What do you
I mean, I would say it's like 90% spiritual exploration and a little bit grief, but not 10% grief. I don't know. It just sort of feels she's just checking stuff out, trying to get
Yeah.
some answers to things that she's not realizing she already knows the answers to. That uh, I don't know.
Yeah. I
She's
just feel
looking
like
for something that doesn't exist.
she just continued to ignore everyone.
Mm.
She was ignoring the living and solely focused on the dead.
Yes, but
Because
also she doesn't talk about her kids at all. She doesn't talk about anything at all. This is just about her grief. So she mentions her husband a couple of times and the people who die in the year she's writing, and like you said before, the people who have died in the 5 years or whatever, that 4 or 5 years that
yeah.
she's between her sister's death and this. But this is just about this journey. So she wouldn't talk about her kids. She wouldn't talk about her relationship with her husband necessarily. I think it's
Well,
just
I mean,
about
she did
that.
every once in a while, and I feel like that's where it was, because I feel like she was kind of like admitting that she was missing things. Like, she was in America once, and she was like, "Why am I here? I shouldn't be here. I should be with my kids." And
Mm-hmm.
one of the um, spiritualists said something like, said about the love thing, and she's like, "Oh my God, why am I here? Like, I should be with my children right now. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
should be with my children." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, you should, because this has been a year of you disappearing." And she, like, her one of her kids was sick at some point, and she was like more concerned about like something with some meeting she had, or I just, yeah, I don't know. And then every time Neil would speak,
Mm-hmm.
he you could clearly see like he was just not a believer, like not like
Mm-hmm.
anything that she was getting into, he was just like, yeah, like supportive,
Like, okay.
but also like, I don't really want to discuss this because there's nothing, I mean, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Or like when she was making him listen to the tapes and he's like, there's nothing there. Like,
Yeah, I don't hear
there's no
anything.
talking.
And I think it too, it would have made more sense if this was like the year immediately after her sister's death, or if she would have started this journey within that first year. So her behavior and her like numbness and things I would understand that a little bit more versus starting this 3 years out. Because that's
Yeah.
3 years of lived experience that you have of trying to do this thing she's already doing with this book, of trying to talk to people and whatever else, like figuring stuff out for yourself, talking to her parents, like what was happening in those 3 years.
She was so dismissive. She was so dismissive, blah, 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 dismissive of her father
Mm-hmm.
and all his, Judaism preaching, and all of his letters, his
Yeah.
emails that he would send to her. And the one that really got me laughing was when he sent an email to his grandson on his birthday, but it was a complete lecture of Passover. And I was like,
Yeah.
Grandpa,
Happy birthday.
this is all the fireplace.
Yeah.
Like, and Moses was blah blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this poor kid is probably like, Mom, why does Grandpa always send me a bunch of emails about,
Right.
dead Jews? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
the heck?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, Grandpa, he just wants you to say happy birthday.
Right. Not here for a lecture.
So, yeah, and obviously we understand that he has had some mental health
Mm-hmm.
lapses in his lifetime. So I mean, obviously there's a little bit of that to explain why he's a little bit off on proper etiquette when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to a child's birthday. But I also feel like she is just very dismissive of it, and just and we all are, aren't we? I mean, when it comes to our parents,
Yeah.
there's we kind of shrug things off, or it's because we've had a lifetime of having to deal with certain things.
Right.
So I get that. But I thought there was going to be more acceptance of maybe how that could have helped. And you could tell like both of her parents really were struggling with how to help her
Right.
come to a point of full acceptance. But again, we didn't see their full process either. So
Right.
it was like opening an old wound, because like you said, her death was 3 years ago, and then this book takes place where she's all of a sudden doing all of this very active searching. And maybe it's just at this point was when she felt most comfortable to do that.
Right. Like
And
she had
that makes
processed
sense.
enough to function,
Yeah, and that makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't know, not a grief memoir. Which
I know. I was wondering how you were doing reading this too, Allie.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I feel like we kind of answered that question already, so I'm going to skip this next one.
Mm-hmm.
This one's kind of a different approach here, but Justine searches for signs from Ruth. Have you experienced something you felt might be a sign from someone who passed?
I mean, how much to tell you? How much time do we have?
Well, I'll go first since
Yeah.
I am a bit more skeptical
Mm-hmm.
than you. I think for me, I feel like immediately after someone has passed, like when it's very fresh, I feel like for me that is when I am the most like susceptible to like, oh my gosh, like that bird or that breeze, or like I feel like within the first week or so it's like a different bodily feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because someone's gone but they're not. It's like your 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 head hasn't like caught up with reality. So I feel like from what I can remember of people who have passed in my life, I feel like it's always like very closely after. There are moments where things have happened where it's helped me move on, or not move on, but helped me know that they have found a better place, I guess is how I'm going to say
Yeah,
that.
they're okay.
And as we move forward in time, that gets less and less. I can't say that every day or, every week or every month that I feel anything like that. It's mostly very closely after passing that I feel like it's the way I've ever connected is, this is going to sound really dumb.
No.
It's the way I uh, breathe, the way this is sounding so stupid, but the way air feels and tastes is different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
But
It does.
it's a different, it's something about the way that I breathe. It's not the same. It feels different. And that's the only experience that I have, and it's only very shortly after people have passed that
Mm-hmm.
has ever happened. So I can't say that it's a everyday thing for me. But yeah.
Well, the one I think that's I'll talk about that is, um, I have. I mean, I don't know. Anyways, it was maybe within 6 months after my dad passing. So my dad passed fairly unexpectedly. We knew he was sick, but how he went and everything was much quicker than we would have thought. How he went was not what he thought he would have gone from, and then a month after my dad died, my mom was unexpectedly diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer for the first time. And so not only did we lose my dad, then my mom was fighting for her life immediately afterwards. And I'm an only child, and there's really not family around. So it was immediately like we went from 3 of us, my mom and dad and I, down to 2. And then it went immediately to just me. So I was really struggling. I still struggle with some of that sometimes. But just to give you of where I was in a headspace. So I was several months after, I was at my job at the library. I was shelving books, and I wasn't thinking about anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was just shelving. And when you're shelving books, personally, I'm saying the alphabet partially in my head a jillion times in a row, just so I make sure I put the book back in the right way, or doing the numbers in the right row, I'm doing this, whatever. And all of a sudden I smelled my dad's pipe tobacco. It's a very distinct kind of pipe tobacco. It smells very appley. And I stopped and I took a deep breath, and then I held my breath, and I thought, there's got to be somebody around me that just walked past that happens to smoke the same kind of pipe smoke he used to have, that same brand, Captain Black, in the white pouch. So I looked really quickly around me. I looked at the next 2 aisles. I looked at the crossing aisle. There was nobody around me. And then I got another huge waft of it. It was all I could do to stay standing and to not start sobbing audibly, gut-wrenching sobs. And I was at the back of the library, the farthest from a staff door. I was stuck deep in the library. And all I could do was hang onto the cart, trying to knock anything over, and pray that nobody walked past me, because it looked like I was having a full-on panic attack, I'm sure, to anybody who would have seen me. But no explanation. Why would that scent be in the library suddenly out of nowhere, again, with nobody around me, in a place my dad literally never was before? So I very shakily took my time, and then I just ignored everybody, walked to the back room. I went to the staff bathroom, and I just sat there dumb for a couple of minutes, just to give myself a little time to go, okay, that really happened. I didn't imagine that. Okay. So that's the biggest one that was close to my dad passing. But I've had other things with him show up too, and my aunts and uncles, and pets and things too. But that was the first one that really, I was not thinking about my dad at all. And all of a sudden and there's no, why would I smell that specific pipe tobacco? There's no reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one.
Allie here so we kind of know her background.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I think my lack of belief means it would have to be a pretty major sign for me to interpret it as such.
Sure.
Which, for me too, I think but I think I'm a little more open than Allie is, so I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
That big moment, which I feel like is how Justine kind of was too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking back to find signs. I need to find closure, searching back rather than searching into the beyond or other realm. I sometimes wish
Yeah.
I could have. I think it could help in the grieving process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right, but you are where you are.
Did the tobacco experience help you or harm you, do you think? Was it comfort knowing he was still around for you?
Yeah, I mean, like you've said before, Dani, I think with anyone, I feel like they're always with you. If you want to access them, they're right there. You don't have to search for them or, what they're just there. So I did find it comforting. I did kind of tell him off, like, could you pick a different time, like a more private time, maybe when I was, I don't know, in my own house by myself where I live alone, instead of in the middle of my job, in the middle of a busy library, in the middle of my shift, or I couldn't get away to like just experience it. Really, thanks, Dad. And I could feel him laughing at that too. So I did find it helpful. I found it comforting, um, because I knew, because he was so sick. Um, it's my belief that once someone crosses over, if they're really sick, sometimes it takes them a long time, because time is not the same there as it is here. I think it takes a lot of time sometimes for someone to heal enough to be able to be well enough to like contact somebody on the earth, if this is making any kind of sense at all, if you can follow along with my logic. um, so I didn't expect to hear from him at all for quite a long time because he was so sick, and to have him show up relatively quickly, so unexpectedly, through me. But I did feel really good, and it made me really happy. I told my mom, and we both appreciated that, that it was like, oh, that was nice. We talk about him all the time. Of course, I'm just going to cry openly, and that's okay. I'm fine. Um, but every time something happens where I feel like somebody is checking in or something, I'm always so grateful, because it is a comfort, or it is a confirmation of, I was just thinking of this person, and then like I'll hear their favorite song come on the radio or whatever, it come up in a shuffle, and you go, okay, thanks, I got it. Thank you, thinking about you, and I move on. It isn't necessarily a big production or anything, but I always find them very comforting.
Yeah. I've always been a big proponent of like remembering people.
Yeah.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. I think Allie said it earlier in the discussion about how people are always with us through memories, through
Right.
shared experiences and whatnot. And I feel like, and it happens a lot, and you see this a lot during like celebrations of life, funerals, what have you, where everyone really like tells stories about, what that person meant to them, what they used to do, like, oh, we, jumped a fence and ran from the, store owners or whatever it may be, like silly things. And so like for people who have passed and in my life, I conjure up memories of them often, or
Mm-hmm.
you know like my grandma and my aunt, who were sisters, they always made chicken noodle soup with dumplings, and my aunt also does that, my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's those kind of things that you keep them with you,
Right.
keep them with you always, by like continuing to make the food that they made, or doing the things that they like to do, or
Right. Telling
just
a story about them to somebody
in general.
else.
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
sharing that experience with somebody else, or
Mm-hmm.
like my kids, they'll never know my grandmother, uh, because she passed, but sharing stories of her gives them that connection.
Right.
Because I mean, and my mom says it all the time, like, grandma would have loved Rosie, like grandma would have just
Mm-hmm.
loved her. Like, of course she would have. But
Mm-hmm.
like it's stuff like that, that you just keep remembering. And I mean, I anytime I find old photos, like I keep all that stuff, like I hang
Yep.
them on my walls, because I don't want to forget those people. And even if I only knew them for a very short time, they're part of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I do definitely believe that keeping memories fresh and alive are keeping those people with you always. So absolutely.
Yep. Of course, I am happy to talk about anything personal with anybody at all. I think it helps to share grief and helps everyone feel less alone. You share the burden of anything, you know. I think it's interesting too with my job. I'm a massage therapist for anyone who's new to it, hasn't listened before. It's a very personal thing. You're in someone's personal space. You're physically touching someone for a full hour at minimum. Um, Stuff comes up, man. I mean, people hold stuff in your body. The body says no. The body keeps the score. All that stuff proved to me a jillion times over. I have lots of clients right now who are going through grief. Um, Parents who have lost their adult children, people who have lost one of their parents, people who have lost siblings, people who have lost very small children. It's all coming up, and we always spend a little time talking about it before they get on the table, so I can see where they are too. But chatting about this stuff, I mean, it just makes more of a connection with somebody else. And when you experience loss, like we keep saying, there's no prediction of when it's going to happen. There's no time limit for how long you feel the way you feel. The fresher it is, of course, usually the harsher it is, but it just helps to be open and share. And I mean, yeah, there's personal stuff I wouldn't tell some people, but pretty much I'll tell anyone anything. I'm not a fan of like surface conversations. I want to talk about deep stuff. I want to like talk about the really deep stuff and like talk about like I'm interested in like people's belief systems, like how they got to believe what they believe. Like, did you look into this? Did someone just tell you this and you accepted it? Are you looking into it now? Oh, that's interesting. Have you had an experience about this? I'm always interesting, like talking to people about that stuff. And sometimes people are like, what are you? This is not the time or place to be talking about someone's religion, Laura. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just curious. Like, I want to have a deep conversation and to connect with people like immediately. I'd rather do that than talk about the weather. So happy to talk about anything with anyone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes too because I'm like, I keep like weird things. I'm like, do I really need this? And half the time it's, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
never
like,
know.
don't you have to put a limit on the things too at some point? Like, I feel like I need to put a limit on some things sometimes. Like, do I need all these things? I probably don't, but I need them. I think I need them right now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe just keep one shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. It's hard too. Like, I think so. This is kind of a story about mementos. So, growing up and with my grandma, so she always like lived up north, but we would visit. And when my parents were getting divorced, my brothers and I all lived with her for 2 months in the summer while my parents were getting divorced and moving. And then they came and got us to take us where we moved cross country. So we spent a lot of time with my grandma. But anyways, every time we went to her house, she had this cookie jar, and it was in the shape of a pig. And the way you would open the cookie jar is it's the little, curly tail would be the handle, and you picked it up, and then you put your hand in, and it'd be the cookies. And when my grandma passed, I was in high school. I think I was probably 16. I was either 15 or 16. And she was actually living in our town. Um, she had moved and then came and was actually living in our town. So I actually had been walking because she was like a block away from the high school. Mm-hmm. So I would walk to her house first, check in on her, help her with stuff, and then I would go home or work or wherever I was going. Well, when she passed, my grandpa, who he was not technically my mother's father, he was a later husband. Well, all of his kids who weren't my grandmother's kids came and like went through all of their stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And basically divvied out everything really before any of my grandmother's kids could come.
That's awful.
And that was the one thing that like I wanted. Like I even asked my mom, like, can we go and get that? Like I want that. Like I want that now. Like that's what I want. Because that's like, I will always remember grandma by this cookie jar. So that is why I think and because my mom is too, but like that's why I think I am a huge thrifter, because I've been searching for that cookie jar for the last 20 years. Like I have just been every time I go to the thrift store, I look for that cookie jar because that's like the one thing. And I have, because my grandma collected pigs, like she collected pigs. We got nothing of her stuff. Like
That's too bad.
we
I'm
didn't get
sorry.
any. Yeah. So every time I find a pig that looks like some of the pigs that she had, I pick them up, which doesn't happen very often because I think these are all like old 80s tchotchkes, right?
Right.
So all the newer stuff is too nice looking. It has to be like old looking silly pigs.
Right. Little wonky paint job. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Young and the Restless dinner plate set. That was but yeah, so I mean that's how I think things are sentimental to people, and like I will never forget that. I mean,
Yeah.
she's been gone for over 20 years. And I am dead set on finding that damn cookie jar. Like I really am. Every time I go somewhere, I'm searching for that thing. Cuz I mean, it's got to exist. It's got to.
Right.
Somewhere.
Yeah, it wasn't just a one-off. They made lots of them, I'm assuming. You know, even if it's not exactly hers, there were many of those made.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
It's out there. It's there. It's out there somewhere. Yeah. So I'm sure if like I really search for it online, I could probably find it, but it's not the same.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, I think overall the book had interesting information. I think it gave an unbiased kind of entry into this whole network of people who practice this. I don't feel like she was trying to sway anybody either way. I mean, she was just really giving her experience. But overall, as far as the like my own like of the story, it was kind of like What did you call it? A nothing burger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like that whole go girl, give us nothing, kind of like that.
Yeah. So, but anywho, thank you, Allie, for putting this in the mix.
Thank you.
And for anyone who read it, I hope that it was a satisfying read, or at least a mediocre read for you. But that's gonna kind of close up our discussion for our April book. So that's that. Again, as a reminder, for May, we do have Laura's birthday pick of Susan Branch's A Fine Romance, which is falling in love with the English countryside, which I'm very excited to look at. I'm hoping that some of our Brits can tell us more and let us know if there's anything that maybe some of these places you have lived or live or can say she's lying.
Right. Not that way at all. Tourist.
Yeah. Oh, Allie, you're funny. Oops. That's funny.
Well, you've had a lot going on.
Yeah. I think, and this was a long time ago that people are putting in.
You emailed me in like October. So, yeah.
No. Don't worry.
Oh my gosh, don't apologize.
We've had worse books than this, believe me.
Oh my gosh. Heck yeah. No, this was interesting. I would never have known it existed if it wasn't a choice.
Right. So I am more interested in reading her other books because a few of them are available to me like on my library app. So this one was not. I had to pay for this one. This was the first book I think I had to actually pay for.
I think it is the first one you've had to pay for.
In our book club.
Because you were like, what the hell? I have to buy this?
I have to buy this book?
Yep.
But I have actually had to pay for books because I have had to use Audible on a few, but still, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
But I had to buy this one. Yeah. So absolutely,
we missed you too.
We miss you. We hope you're doing well, and we're always here, and no matter what. So,
yep,
you do you, and you let us know how you're doing. So I think we'll close it up here, and we will catch you next week, Tuesday. So that's the first Tuesday in May, where we'll do reading sprints, and some of us will start our book, or maybe do some laundry, or whatever we feel is going to be productive for the evening. So
endless laundry.
Oh my gosh. No, you will not.
Oh my gosh, Allie.
No,
She's just been sneaky and trying to find a way to not pay for anything the whole time.
Yeah, I'm just a complete what do they call that?
You're very thrifty.
I mean, I am frugal, but I'm cheap. Like I'm
penny pincher.
Yeah. I can't believe I have Audible. Like that is still gnawing at me. Like I need to get rid of that. Anywho, okay.
Yeah, you talked to me. If you do delete your account or delete your membership, you are supposed to be able to save everything forever, so you can log in.
Okay, but I just have to make sure that any credits that I have to
use them up first.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, friends. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you are watching in replay and you made it this far, we love you so much. Make sure you comment below, and we will see you next week for reading sprints.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.